Our next speaker is a husband, a father, and a grandfather. He is an advocate against the lies surrounding cannabis's illegality, an advocate for the freedom of a plant, and he's going to talk about our right to choose. Please welcome him to tell his story. This is Chris Grisolia.
Hey y'all, my name is Chris Grisolia, better known as Gramps online, as I'm the sole creator of the Facebook page, Something Has to Change and Now. I became an advocate back in 2016 after losing my 23-year-old son to epilepsy. And needless to say, I'm an advocate for the complete and total descheduling of cannabis at the federal level, with zero limits to home growability and or possession. This was my son. You know, he lived where many others do who do not have access legally for any use of cannabis, let alone medicinal. And he wouldn't break the law, a law that was based in lies from the start. From the days of Hearst and Anslinger in the 1930s with the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, which was deemed unconstitutional in 1969, by the way, to the days of Nixon and the Controlled Substances Act of 1970, and the lies that have ensued since then. You know, as a father, I cannot hold my son's desire to be a law-abiding citizen against him, and I don't. Those I hold accountable for my son's shortened life are those who have helped spread the lies before, during, and still to this day, whom exemplify the lies surrounding cannabis illegality. Now I want to talk about the Texas TCUP program for a minute. There are a lot of people in the state of Texas who are excited about this program, and I get it. It is the first successful cannabis legalization measure in the state. But I have to say, beware of sheep in wolves' clothing, folks. The Texas TCUP program states that it is for the most severe forms of intractable epilepsy. My point is that all forms of intractable epilepsy are severe. Now let's look at that word intractable for just a minute. Intractable simply means uncontrollable. That's it. It's just a fancy word for uncontrollable. You know, therefore, everyone who has epilepsy that is not controlled with conventional medicines and methods has intractable epilepsy. Since 1 in 150 people who have intractable epilepsy will likely die from something called SUDEP, or the sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, as my son did, then everyone who has intractable epilepsy should qualify for this program. You know, there are over 345,000 Texan epileptics who do not qualify for the Texas TCUP program. Of those, over 50% have intractable epilepsy of some form or another. Now, that being said, that means there are over 1,150 people in the state of Texas this year that will likely die from SUDEP. A really sickening fact to me is that in 2016 we had 987 drunk driving fatalities in the state of Texas. And this appalls us, it does, and it should. You know, we spend all kinds of money trying to fight this problem. But yet, those that might die from SUDEP is not even a topic. It's crazy. You know, and epilepsy is just one small piece of this pie. You know, let's talk about fibromyalgia, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, Dravet syndrome, PTSD, Crohn's disease, all kinds of forms of cancer. The list just goes on and on and on and on. You know, it is time that we undo the falsehoods that have made a simple plant, an herb, no different than any other herb, illegal. It is time that the government no longer has the authority to stipulate what kind of plants we grow in our garden. It is time that innocent people are no longer prosecuted for a victimless crime. It is time that patients have the right to choose what kind of medicine they use for their conditions. And it is time that greed no longer stipulates policy within our democracy, something that has been allowed to happen for way too long and at the expense of way too many lives. It really is pretty simple, folks. Something has got to change, and now.
Do you see why this is important?